King of Skywarn, I kind of like that. That's all right, Dave. Thanks very much for having me here today. And how many in here have actually heard the term Skywarn before today? Just raise your hand. So about half or so. Okay, good. I thought what I would do is just give you a brief explanation and try to walk you through a few things about what Skywarn really represents. Skywarn is a program by the National Weather Service. And the National Weather Service's mission basically is to protect lives and property by issuing safety or publicly available severe weather watches and warnings in a timely manner. As you can see in this picture, hopefully they did that with a lot of lead time, as Dave mentioned here. We're very fortunate in our area here, especially in the Midwest, since we're kind of in Tornado Alley, to have some very good Skywarn programs in place in local communities. And the Riverbend area is one of those places, actually. You know, the National Weather Service has lots of technology, right? You know, you're saying, well, if they've got all this technology, like they've got Doppler radar here that gives them all kinds of images on their computers, they've got satellites where they can see all these weather systems and hurricanes and so forth, they've got all kinds of computer power. They still use weather instruments to collect that data and tell you how hot it's going to be tomorrow. And every once in a while they send a balloon up too to get those upper atmosphere conditions. Along with warning you about all of that severe weather, 24/7, 365 days a year through their NOAA weather radios. But you know, the other side of this technology is the people. And so you've got to have people in addition to the technology to make all this kind of work. And part of those people belong to a Skywarn program. You know, they're the people that are getting their vehicles and they go out here and they look for the severe weather when it's coming in. They might be the person in the backyard giving a rain report or a snow depth report. They might be that person on the radio, as Dave mentioned, the amateur radio operator, phoning in or calling in those reports. And of course it takes the National Weather Service people to come out and actually train the public on what things to really look for. And so what is the Skywarn program? Well, it's essentially a group of trained volunteers who agree to become the eyes and ears of the National Weather Service. You might hear them referred to as weather spotters. Probably will, a lot of things. And they provide that real-time observations of severe weather events like tornadoes and damaging winds, hail, flooding, and winter weather events. The key here for the Skywarn program is they provide the real-time reports assisting the meteorologists at the time that it's happening for them to make these warning decisions and to be able to issue those tornado warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings in time for you as Joe citizen to take cover and prepare for safety. Some of the concepts, and they do this through a training program. The Weather Service sends out meteorologists basically once a year, and they send them out to give these Skywarn talks or Skywarn seminars. And in these seminars, it's about a 2.5, 3-hour seminar. They train you on these things, like the basic thunderstorm developments. How do they occur? How does a thunderstorm take place? What are the fundamentals of that storm structure? When you're looking at those clouds back there, what's that tell you? They help identify the potential severe weather features of those clouds and what information to actually report to them when you either call in via ham radio or you call in via cell phone or you get on the internet and report it. They've got all these mechanisms now that you as a Skywarn spotter do not have to be a ham radio operator. You can call in via phone, use the internet to report these things, and they want that information, believe it or not, almost 24/7. And so they tell you what kind of information they want you to report, how to go about reporting it, and basically you learn some severe weather safety items. The Skywarn program actually gives you, it's a series of slides, videos, and the experts talk about, they kind of show you a cloud, okay? You're looking at this cloud. Some people just see that as white puffy stuff. If you're a Skywarn spotter, After a while, when you take these training classes, you're going to start thinking about this thing right here, that freezing line within those clouds. You're going to think about the updrafts that are actually causing those particles of air to rise, to get up into the clouds and condense into what? Water droplets, right? Once the air condenses, cools down, it goes up in the clouds, it cools off. After it cools off, those water droplets start obtaining mass. What happens? Gravity pulls them back down. So they start falling out as rain. Now the real trick on some of these clouds is that when you have those water droplets going up like that, or the air going up like that, forming and condensing up here in the clouds in the higher atmospheres where it's actually cooler than it is on the surface, those water droplets start falling. If this is really a strong cloud, sometimes those updrafts will take that water droplet and push it back up into the cloud again. When that happens and it goes past that freezing line, what happens to the water when it freezes? It turns into hail, doesn't it? Turns into hail, starts falling down, comes down, starts melting again. All of a sudden, there's such an updraft, it pushes it back up into that cloud again, goes up a little bit higher this time. Hail starts getting bigger before it falls. So, as you go through the classes, you learn about the mechanisms that are involved here. There's lots of energy right here in this thing. Lots of energy. So what kind of things do we report? If you notice right here, this was May 3rd of 2010. This was just about, oops, went too fast here. Let me back up. This cloud was just southeast of Brighton. Do you notice anything ominous about that cloud? Yeah, somebody's been in the class already. Well, if you're a Skywarn spotter, you notice this little thing right here, they call that a wall cloud. Wall clouds are precursors to tornadoes. Now, you'd have to sit and watch this thing for a little bit to see if it was actually rotating. But there's several other aspects here. If you were a Skywarn spotter, you would pick out of this immediately as you saw it. You see the rain over here coming down. You'd see this clear area underneath this cloud deck. Lots of times that's referred to the rear flank downdraft or the backside of the storm. You see this wall cloud, you want to see if it was rotating or not. There's a pendant hanging down right here out of that cloud. That's where the tornadoes actually start forming. So if you're a Skywarn spotter and you see this, you're going to call that in to the National Weather Service and you're going to say, hey, look what I got, guys. Well, they can't really see that because that Doppler radar is looking at the atmosphere way up here. Now, it might see the rotation in that atmosphere, but Doppler radar is not going to see this. That's why it's important for the public to be involved with Skywarn spotters to get these warnings out ahead of time. Because lots of times, the meteorologist in charge of that day will wait until they hear confirmation from somebody who can visually say, we do have a wall cloud, or we do have a funnel, or we do have a tornado. Sometimes they don't have that capability, or they don't have the ability to do that. They'll go ahead and issue the tornado warning. But lots of times they'll wait until they hear confirmation from a Skywarn spotter. Same day, a little bit earlier, or a little bit after this tornado, actually this did not turn into a tornado, but it was a very severe thunderstorm. And guess what it had? It had a lot of winds. See these lines blowing down? Again, something else to report at the Weather Service. Now I'm going down this road, I see the telephone lines. It's the wind out of that storm was strong enough to blow that pole over and snap the pole. So it had some pretty strong winds in it. This was a result of that thunderstorm. This is all hail laid out in the field. About the size of a golf ball, I would say. I think it was reported as golf ball size hail. But that's another indicator to the meteorologist when you call it in to the Skywarn person to say, how severe was that weather? How severe is that storm? Was it just pea-sized hail coming out of there? No, I had golf ball size hail. What's that tell us? Tell the guy. Hey, that water was going up, coming down, going back up, coming down, going back up. In other words, there was a lot of inflow into that storm. A lot of warm air was rising that day and cooling off at very high heights in the atmosphere. That's potential for very severe weather. This is just a flood picture I want to put up because we do report flooding too, and I just wanted to mention that it only takes 12 inches of water running across the road to float your car. So that kind of brings me to this little video right here about turn around, don't drown. If you're driving someplace at night and you can't, and you're familiar with the road, but you can't really see, you can see water going across the road, it's always best to go find another way. Don't drive through that. Because you're really taking your life in your hands when you drive through that water on the road. How many of you in here have seen people stuck in viaducts? Yeah. They're lucky they got out of the car. So, I mean, it can happen, and injuries and deaths actually occur because of that. When you're outside and thunder roars, go indoors. You know, some of those things. Make sure you always go to, if you're in your house or a building or whatever, go to the lowest floor, interior level, away from windows for tornadoes when you hear a tornado warning. I wanted to point out something here on this graphic. This is a Midwest National Weather Service regional graphic here from the Midwest. So, and it's pretty hard to read, but I don't know if that's even in focus. Does that look like it's even in focus? You can't read this very well, but we're experiencing a big heat wave right now. Look at the #1 cause of deaths that are weather related here. It's heat. How are we doing on time, Dave?
Got about a minute.
All right. We're going to rush on through this. I just want to make sure people are aware that weather radios are out there to be had. You can't have one. If you don't have one in your home, your business, your church, wherever, go get one. They can save lives. And how many of you in here have a smartphone already? Guess what, folks? There's a company now called iMap. They make a weather radio app for your smartphone for $10. You can get this app, download it on your smartphone, and have a weather radio right on your phone. Amateur radios involved, obviously. We'll skip on through some of this. Some of you have scanners or a means to listen. If you want to, you might jot these frequencies down. This is the Skywarn amateur radio frequencies that we use here in Madison County and the Weather Service. Now, I just close here with one thing, that storm spotting is different than storm chasing. You've all heard of storm chasers. The Skywarn program does not support storm chasers. We are storm spotters, which means I go look at my backyard or I look out my kitchen window. I don't hop in a car or a vehicle and go out there in the field. Some training class information, if you want to, get on the internet, weathergov.lsx. Just key that in, they'll have some spotter information for you. There might be a few classes coming up this fall, but generally they'll be in the January through April timeframe next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
I will stick around for just a little bit if anybody has questions or wants to talk about it.